Also a special broadcast with our team, including Dan Moyane, the regular host of this show, and JJ Tabani. They're down in Ulundi for us as we build up to the burial and the funeral of Mangosuthu Buthelezi this weekend. But my team telling me there is a briefing from the IFP. I imagine it's ahead of the burial. Let's go there now.
Of the Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Obasanjo will be present at the funeral and other former heads of state. But we are working with the presidency to finalize all the logistics. And tomorrow what we will do is that for the purposes of accreditation, we will issue the directives. However, the old assembly legislature building of Ulundi will be the designated precinct for the collection of accreditation where necessary. And we are looking at expanding that facility to another venue for the ease of convenience. And to say that the family does not want a long program either on Saturday, so the focus really will be on the mass and the service that will be presided over by the Archbishop of Cape Town. Newsroom Africa.
Well, we have made some arrangements and a provision for transport, especially for those who are coming from Durban area and also from Johannesburg. I have actually been told that from Durban we are expecting some 35 buses to be coming up, and from Johannesburg some around 20 buses. So that is a massive number of Amabuto coming. So that is why we are taking no chances in terms of making sure that once they are here, they actually also taken care of. They have some space here so that they become part of the whole process.
Just on that, I just wanted to add, DSG, if I may, that government has indicated that they will not be providing transport, and so we are calling on those who will be requiring transport as far as necessary is concerned to be in touch with the local structures of the IFP, the constituencies in the main. But we reiterate what the DSG has said, that we are calling on people to make use of the facilities that will be provided, but also at the same time that following the proceedings live on TV, as we are quite hopeful that you guys will be carrying the funeral on your channels. So really, insofar as the transport logistics are concerned, to really be in touch with the IFP structures, because the state has indicated that whilst it's been declared a state funeral, the provisions of that will be limited only to what takes place here. Any other logistical arrangements become those of the IFP and the Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi Foundation, which we are carrying at this point in time. Okay, so we'll come to the translations.
Mr. Shlengwe and DSG, just in terms of, we know we are here to speak about arrangements for Saturday, but we know tomorrow is particularly an important day. We know the body of the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi will be coming home for the last time. Can you just talk us through, is everything on track for that, and around what time can people be expected to sit down and pay their respects for that process?
Yeah, it's another very important day tomorrow, especially for the family and for the bigger Buthelezi, clan. I think arrangements also are afoot to make sure that what needs to happen tomorrow actually does take place smoothly. One cannot actually be specific about time, but in terms of Zulu custom and tradition, Umnumzane and particularly Nkosi, gets back home in the afternoon. So it should be around in the afternoon without specifying time. But I'm sure as time goes on, an announcement will be made exactly on what time he will be expected to go back home. But those are the logistics that one is going to be attending to with the family this afternoon, and also the leadership of the Buthelezi clan in general. Thank you.
Mr. Langa, you wanted to...
Oh, okay, yes. Yes.
Hello, Sakile ke?
Ngiyabonga kakhulu ngalo mbuzo. Amalungiselelo onke ahamba. Selokhu sisekuseni hlangana eyafika kwena sonke sibuka zamuva
Well, a few of the IFP leaders there at the Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi Memorial Stadium at Ulundi there, speaking to the media, just outlining some of the preparations and arrangements that are being made just 48 hours before the funeral, the special official funeral for Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. We saw a number of them, including Mr. Mwango, who's the mayor of Kwanongoma, and also Mkhuleko Hlengwa there, whom we all know, of course, is an IFP member, but in Parliament he serves as the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Finance, that is SCOPA. We're coming to you live here on Today from KwaPhindangene, the home of Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi. It's been a quieter day compared to other days. But as we speak to you now, we have members of the family. There is a marquee behind me where they are receiving various delegations. Velenkosini Hlabisa, the president of the IFP, and his delegation arrived a short while ago to meet with the family. About half an hour or so ago, we also saw members of the military being here to consult with the family in the same venue here where we are on the grounds of KwaPhindangene. We have Muluku Muloto is at the stadium. Muluku Muloto is at the stadium where the funeral service will be taking place. Arrangements were undergoing. Progress is being assessed. We saw Peggy Ela, the Minister of Police, and other police officials and members of government checking out what's happening there. The likes of the IFP's Narendra Singh, who's also an MP, were on the ground. Muluku Muloto, welcome back here on Today. Can you tell us what's the latest? Is the progress there? Have they resolved whatever issues, if there were any?
Well, Braden, there certainly is movement here at the stadium. The venue for that special official funeral, category 1, as pronounced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The men are hard at work. I'm just going to ask my colleague Lingenda Bambi to show you the work that they are currently doing. A short while ago, I just saw them shifting one of this onto the other end. And obviously at this point in time, it may not make sense in terms of how arrangements, movement of people and all that is going to take place. And hopefully that will begin to take shape possibly tomorrow. But the marquees have been erected here, right in the middle of the pitch of the stadium. A short while ago, you were listening to the Deputy Secretary General of the IFP, Mr. Albert Mwango. Alongside him was Mkhuleko Hlengwa, who is the spokesperson of the party here, just giving us an update following that walkabout and a briefing with the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele, who said that he was satisfied with the arrangement. We heard him really not wanting to get deeper into the details, security details, in terms of exactly how many policemen and women they will be deploying on the ground on Saturday. But yes, certainly the fact that the president will be delivering a eulogy, that obviously tells you that they will be deploying top security personnel here. And also, given the interest, just the sheer number of people from this area of Ulundi, from the province of KwaZulu-Natal and other parts of the country, who may want to come and be part of the mourners who would be paying their last respects to the fallen Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. You heard from the party just a short while ago, they are saying that the stadium is simply not big enough to accommodate everybody who may want to be here. So rather utilizes facilities wherein they are going to be showing. Perhaps they would be putting up screens there, but they also hope that the media, television channels in particular, will be broadcasting this live, and they're saying people should rather focus on that instead of coming here. They pointed out that there's about 30 buses, if memory serves me well, that will be carrying Amabuto, the Zulu regiments from particularly in the Durban area. They will be coming here. Also 20 buses will be ferrying another group of Amabuto from Johannesburg, who will be coming here, because Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi was a senior traditional leader here. As much as this particular funeral, there will be an element of official funeral, but also the traditional aspect of it will be taking part. In terms of the dignitaries, you would assume that the president will possibly be coming with some members of his National Executive Council, from the cabinet ministers and the deputy ministers, but also we heard from Kulego Hlengwa, who speaks for the IFP, saying that at least there's confirmation up to so far that the former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has confirmed attendance here. But of course, it's a funeral. Usually traditionally, you don't invite people to the funeral, right? They come to the funeral as and when they are able to do so. However, it's a different matter altogether in this case, because there are arrangements that need to be followed, the issue of security and all that, Praden.
Okay, thank you very much, Muluku Moloto. Progress indeed being made, and being a special official funeral, a lot of details have to be attended to, as well as making sure that if President Matamela Ramaphosa will be delivering the eulogy, there has to be maximum security, as you will. And the IFP leaders also making sure from their side that all the necessary logistics are taken care of for this special official funeral. Muloko Moloto at the Prince Mangosuthu Memorial Stadium there at Uluni, just giving us an update here on today about the arrangements that are being made there. Still a lot more work to be done. It's 48 hours to go before that special official funeral on Saturday. Now, in recent days, since the passing of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, many people have been making comments, and some have been making speeches, and in interviews with analysts, a lot of views are being shared about the life and times of Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Some people describing him as a controversial leader, but recently, as yesterday, we're hearing EFF's Mbuyiseni Ndlozi describing him as a man of peace, and other people are pointing out to a very difficult moment in the history of this country in the late 70s and the 80s, when the IFP was pitted against the ANC in different parts of South Africa, and particularly here in KwaZulu-Natal. So when we reflect on this, it's like a moment for us as a country, because it's like a big chapter is closing. Mangosuthu Buthelezi is the last surviving minister of the old apartheid homeland system, but is also recently the eldest and the longest-serving MP of South Africa's democratic parliament. So how do we make sure as a nation going forward that we do not distort history, but we really face the facts, the brutal facts, the cold facts, as they were, in a way to build a better society going forward? I thought I should speak to historian Sakile Hadebe, just to help us here this afternoon on today, to reflect on that aspect, that the nation that we are, that has gone through immense trials and tribulations, and we had leaders of the likes of Mangosuthu Buthelezi who did play a role during apartheid and post-apartheid in democratic South Africa. How do we make sure that our history is preserved correctly? Sakile, good afternoon. How do we create a balanced picture of contributions made by the likes of Mangosuthu Buthelezi, with all the pain and the suffering that surrounds many of our leaders as we go forward? What's your view?
Thank you. I think it will be a difficult one to balance going forward. But what we saw at the Category 1 funeral by President Matamela Ramaphosa, it is a step forward, or it is a signal going forward that Chief Buthelezi is one of the longest serving members of parliament, and as an elder, because even in parliament, even the ruling party, the ANC, if they talk about Chief Buthelezi in parliament, they refer to him as an elder, as a statesman. He has that place. He's not just one of the opposition leaders. So it is not surprising because of his role, as you have also alluded, going before apartheid. We know the role he played and of our democracy. He was not just a member in parliament, but he was one of cabinet ministers under Dr. Nelson Mandela. Even though, and when Mandela was out of the country, he will usually leave Chief Buthelezi in the reign as the acting president of the country. And he is the one of those who are few whom are left now, because your Mandelas are no longer here. He's one of the oldest who was around. So there will be an attempt to preserve that, but it will be met with many challenges, because you cannot divorce Prince Buthelezi, whom now is being praised as a statesman, from Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the leader of the IFP. You cannot divorce the two. So the dark history will always haunt him.
Well, as we continue our discussion, so it's good to have you with us as we look back at the history of this. We're going to go back to Dan Moyane in a moment. Help me understand, while we wait for Dan to come back to us, how does the youth of today begin to understand how someone like Mangosuthu Buthelezi and the effect he had in KZN? What does the youth of today, the IFP youth, the ANC youth, the youth electorate, if you will, how do they look at someone of his stature, of his age, and try and emulate that, if they should even emulate it?
I think it won't be as easy as we might want to believe, because even if there are things which we want to emulate, but the youth, it will be difficult because it is his party who should be at the center of retaining his legacy, promoting his legacy. It should be his party, but we are not seeing them doing that. I think there should be a rebranding of his party first, to rebrand from the old guard and try to inject a new blood. There are quite a number of few much younger leaders in the IFP. We can think of Mkhuleko Hlengwa and others. Maybe they should start by rebranding the organization itself, so that we are able to preserve the legacy, and we can be able to understand that politics is dynamic, and then the young people can relate to the newly or renewed or newly branded Inkatha Freedom Party and the Buthelezi legacy. But as things stand now, it will be very difficult for young people even to understand who is Buthelezi, for that matter, which would be very unfortunate for men of his stature.
Dan here. I hope you can hear me now. Just lost the line there a little bit earlier. I just want to know, in terms of violence that we have seen, one of the comments I've heard recently, and I'm going to be speaking to my colleague JJ shortly about it, because it came out in an interview he did last night on Power to Truth here on eNCA. People are now saying things like, but it's not us only who killed people, but the other party also killed people, sounding like it's now a competition of who killed who. It's not really about that. It's about helping this country to heal and finding real reconciliation. But still today we are speaking like, no, we didn't do it alone. The others also did it. That cannot be helpful for us as a country as we try and build a better future. What are your views as a historian?
I think you are correct. This is not a path any country would want to adopt or take, to say I did wrong less than you in terms of wrongness. Wrong is wrong. So, but if you want to go forward, the issue of the TRC is still problematic, because we know the relationship between TRC and Prince Buthelezi, that really there's nothing out which really came out of the TRC which related to Buthelezi, even though there were people, the commanders of the hit squad, who have pointed out that they were acting under the instruction of eNCA Freedom Party. But because they have never come out and owned up to that, it will be a bit problematic. But I did say this before. I'm not sure whether it's by the time with disconnection that it will be the history of Buthelezi will always be haunted by the dark cloud of violence. You can think of 7 Days War in Pietermaritzburg, we think of Ungoy massacre. All those things will remain. They are part of the history which cannot be erased. So pointing one another now going forward, it's not going to assist. They must own up, because now it is about Chief Buthelezi, not somebody else. They must own up and reconcile moving forward.
Thank you very much. Sakile Hatebe, the historian, just helping us a little bit there to understand some of the big context historical and how do we move forward. And thank you to you, Gareth, for having picked up the conversation when we lost our connection here momentarily at Kwapindangene. But we are back, and it is today on eNCA DSTV Channel 43. I referred to him just a short while ago. He's with me now, seated at me and looking at me and smiling. And I wonder if he's going to fire a question at me or not. That's my colleague, JJ Tabane. Prof, good afternoon. Welcome to Today.
Afternoon, Brother Dan. Thank you for having me on your Today show.
You had a beautiful conversation last night with Velenkosini Hlabisa. I don't know if he's still on the grounds. A short while ago, he did arrive here with a delegation to meet with the family who are seated in front of you. If you look across, you'll see there's a marquee. The family has been busy there receiving some people, delegates, who are coming to understand what the family is really planning. And we also had the military here earlier. Velenkosini Hlabisa last night, before we speak about two issues that came up, I just want to give a broad sense from you. What were the highlights for you in that conversation last night?
First of all, I was impressed by Hlabisa. It was apparent that he's been muted most of the time. If you listen to that interview, you'd wonder, where has this guy been? You know, he was elected leader, but unfortunately lived under the shadow of what they call President Emeritus. So I understand why he would not have been, too vocal, etc. So yesterday was quite a pleasant thing that he agreed in the middle of, obviously, this week of mourning to come and talk to us and just be free to answer anything. He didn't, before the interview say, oh, don't ask this, don't ask that. So highlight number one. And I even asked him, is that a fact? When he says, no, actually 12,000 of these 20,000 people who were killed were actually IFP, and 8,000 ANC, so they didn't kill themselves. In other words, what you've been saying, that he was basically saying, why is Prince Buthelezi only being blamed? But we're focusing on him now, right? We're not saying that the other people didn't have a role. And that's really what the big highlight was, that they are still trapped in that sort of defensive mode, if you like.
I think one of the points that might be missing, if I may, JJ, is the fact that the eNCA Freedom Party was allowed by the apartheid government to operate freely, while the liberation movement in the form of the ANC, the PAC, the Communist Party and others were banned.
But they are using that to say that this was with the understanding and blessings of the ANC, right? That they would operate because the ANC was banned, and if they were to call themselves a cultural movement, because yesterday this part about why they call themselves a cultural movement was made clear to me, because all along I thought the ANC agreed that they can form a cultural movement, so they're able to mobilize.
In fact, when they started, they were called Inkatha Yenkululeko Yesizwe.
Absolutely.
Before this was a Freedom Party.
But yesterday he says, no, that was just a strategy. We're a political party from day one, but if we were to call ourselves a political party from day one, the apartheid government are going to ban us. So you know, history is a contestation of perspectives, etc. The second part was the issue about reconciliation. And I put him on the spot a little bit to say, you just joined a coalition that vowed not to work with the ANC just 3 weeks ago. How does the reconciliation you're talking about look like? Because for a political party, reconciliation means let's not be too adversarial, let's work together, coalitions, things like that. And they've ruled that out just 3 weeks ago. And he went off on a big tangent to actually lambast the ANC even worse, and saying that they didn't keep their promises, etc. So that reconciliation story, or rather an attempt, is it's a bridge too far at the moment because of the elections that are coming. What they've already done and put their stake on the ground to say they're not going to work with the ANC.
And it seems to me it will remain elusive for quite a long time from those kind of positions. There was an interesting point, you might have missed this one, just to bring it up from what you've just said. Princess Phumzile Buthelezi, the daughter, was interviewed by Spamandla Goke a short while ago, and she said something which I thought was very interesting, which I'm sure they will be explored going forward. She said, there's nothing wrong with the ANC nationally. The national leaders, we get along very well, they understand us. It's the ANC guys in KwaZulu-Natal who are a problem. I wonder what that means and what that is coming from. But one aspect that he mentioned, which I want to bring in now, because I want our viewers to listen to that part of your interview with Velenkosini Hlabisa, the IFP president, last night, was the fact that he described Mangosuthu Buthelezi as a blameless leader. I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen to what he had to say at that moment last night. Let's take a listen to Velenkosini Hlabisa last night.
Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi will be remembered as one person who was resilient, who, when he believes in what he believes in, he will fight for that no matter what opposition he will be facing. A man who became a symbol of honesty in South Africa over a period of 7 decades in the public political space. He was never associated with corruption. As you know, we have a problem of leaders who are corrupt. Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi demonstrated that you can be a leader over 70 years and always remain corrupt-free. He is the man who demonstrated integrity. He demonstrated servant leadership. The respect he had, he respected a younger person and an older person. When you look at how he responds to another person, we really felt shy that the way he respects us is not equal to the respect we give to people who are older than us, yet he was far, far away from us and not demonstrating it only to the IFP members, to the public in general. He was a gentleman, a person of jokes, but someone who does not hide his views, no matter against whom to express.
Honest leader, corrupt-free leader. When you heard him say that, what went through your mind?
I think the next conversation was to ask, right, at the back of that eulogy or praise, right, to say, surely there must be a blemish somewhere. Can you just tell me in your view? Because he has agreed to say, no, in fact, Prince Buthelezi used to say, nobody is a saint. He says, all right, good. So it's a good starting point. Tell me where you think he misstepped in this whole 70 years that he led, right? Of course, no prizes for guessing. I didn't get a straight answer because the people seems to be in a box of either all good or all bad. Nobody is all good or all bad.
You know, what I was thinking, we have this saying generally in our society that you don't speak ill of the dead. Yeah. And in many parts of the world, by the way, not just in our country. I was just wondering, at some point after democracy, I just want your view, Prof. Yeah. Do you think we went soft on Mangosuthu Buthelezi as a country in terms of really looking closely? Do you think the TRC did not really go hard enough to really get the cold facts out? Maybe, you know, when you fix a wound, sometimes you have to really go in deep and then you get out the nonsense and then you heal. Yeah.
Not just to Buthelezi, just generally, even to the ANC. The ANC still haven't told us what happened in the Quattro camps. We have to be told by sketches and, I don't know, they're still called sketches, but, theater, productions, and people who are bitter because they are not being taken care of because of what happened there. Families whose graves are in Angola, who are not even labeled, right? So those, you understand? So we went soft on everybody. I mean, the Cox of this world, the clerk died before apologizing, and people are beginning to also ask the same question to say, and at the back of this 20,000 people who passed away, right? Was there enough accountability and acknowledgement on all sides, right? But obviously, if you are talking about OR Tambo, if OR Tambo just passed on, you don't list 100 other people. We are talking about that one and what his role was and whether he took responsibility or not. And I think that, that is a little bit on the fence in terms of how the IFP has decided to deal with that issue, because they themselves are saying, we're not the only ones. So it means that they were also part. But have they done enough? Because I asked the question, why would you think reconciliation will work after 30 years of you not doing anything about it? It's 30 years.
It's a very fair question. But on that point of how many people died, I mean, he did tell you from last night that you can't just blame the IFP. Let's take a listen to that bite when he said, no, the other side must also take part of the blame.
Both political parties must accept that violence was unfortunate, and we need to heal the wounds and begin a new chapter. Yes. The unfortunate thing people do in South Africa, they level the blame to the IFP or to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi alone. The truth is here. In KwaZulu-Natal, 20,000 people died out of violence. 12,000 are IFP members and 8,000 are ANC members. That is a fact, which is recorded. The 12,000 IFP members did not kill themselves. They were killed by ANC. Now, at that time, if you blame Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi for the death of 8,000 ANC members, apportion an equal blame to Oliver Tambo for the death of the 12,000 people. Mandela, what you call the Shell House massacre. IFP members were killed.
Yeah, there you have it. It's a point I was making earlier that now, so many died, but we killed so many. Only they killed, that kind of thing. And I mean, mentioning the Shell House massacre, I covered that story. I arrived there a few minutes after that shooting had happened from the top of the building of Shell House, which was on Plain Street in old downtown Johannesburg, which was the first head office of the ANC after 1990, before Luthuli House. Now, Prof, as we conclude, I'm just thinking from the conversations you've had, not just with Velenkosini Hlabisa, but with other analysts and your views as well. This country has to move forward. The death of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi marks an end of a big chapter in our history. He's the last surviving leader of the old apartheid homeland system. Although he didn't take to independence, unlike Transkei, Ciskei, Bophuthatswana and Venda, he was part of that system. He benefited from it. But also recently, he was the eldest, and he became a parliamentary elder, and the longest-serving MP of a democratic South Africa. And recently, we were told he wanted his ANC membership back. Okay, that's what we're hearing. He wanted the reconciliation. But as a country, when this chapter closes, how do we actually move forward? So our children, they are children. Forward, we'll look back and say, you know what, it was a country that went through a lot of suffering under an old, brutal, inhumane system, a crime against humanity, which was apartheid. Then it went into democracy. We learned along the way, but now we have a better country. What must happen?
Look, I think the idea of reconciliation is not old-fashioned, right? It's just that, like many other things in our society, we executed it badly, right? The TRC, for example, has 5 volumes of a report, right? Half of which the recommendations were not implemented.
People have not been held accountable.
No, they have not. But also, that report could have been used for a redistribution of wealth. Remember, part of what was suggested, there was a wealth fund. Right? Now I hear that Action SA is talking about an opportunity fund, etc. We missed the boat, right? Then after we missed that boat, we then said, oh, let's have a BEE legislation, and then particularly white big business, just ignored that. It's just a big mess. So a reconciliation without justice will become a non-starter, right? So I like the idea that it looks like everybody's saying, let's reconcile, let's reconcile. I doubt that it will happen too fast, especially ahead of the next elections. But after the next elections, when the temperatures are low, right, that reaching out to each other is important. Secondly, people who died because of that conflict, what have we done to help them have closure? I don't know. Is there a fund? Is there a memorial? I'm not aware of any of that. And those are symbolic things, but important. So I would encourage both the IFP and the ANC to reach out to each other. The timing is up to them. Obviously, in politics, timing is everything, right? To be able to rebuild those bridges for the sake of future generations. Secondly, the issue of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was exactly to help us face the truth. But I'm sure you heard that Tlhabisa dismissing it, to say, oh, they were wrong and what have you. So we need to be able to face the truth. We need to be able to ask ourselves, what are the justice questions that will accompany this reconciliation? And I think we can make progress in that regard.
Thank you very much, Prof. JJ Tabane, just sharing with us some insights as we reflect on his interview last night on Power to Truth with the president of the IP, Velenkosini Tlhabisa, and just to unpack some of the very key questions that this country now we have to ask ourselves, because it is the end of a chapter. That is the death of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi from that generation. But the future, of course, belongs to new, younger generation. We have a very beautiful country. We have a very rich country. The opportunity is really here, looking forward to say, how can we build a really better South Africa for everyone? Gareth Edwards, we will touch base with you as well after 5 o'clock from here Pindangene on today, as we continue to build up with these live reports to that funeral, the special official funeral on Saturday. Back to you, Gareth.
All right, Dan Moyane, JJ Tabane, thank you very much. By the way, if you missed that discussion that Dan and JJ were talking about from Power to Truth last night, just head over to eNCA.com/shows and you'll actually see, there it is on the right-hand side, fascinating, very insightful interview between JJ and the leader of the IFP. Just look for it on the right-hand side of eNCA.com/shows, the future of the IFP. Now,